I, however, have been a Maoist, a follower of Chairman Mao of China. And when anyone criticized China, we would say, bourgeois propaganda, bourgeois propaganda. And I was the worst, self-righteous to the point of being obnoxious.
I'm surprised to hear you were a Maoist.
Yes, I was. But I was not what you would call an ignorant Maoist. There were people of high intellectual caliber who were supportive of the Chinese Revolution. My mentor, Paul Sweezy, there was a very brilliant economist in France, Charles Bettelheim, at the École Pratique des Hautes Études. I eventually studied with him. I was one of his students. So it wasn't as if it was a crude Maoism. It seemed to be a sophisticated one, but we dismissed all criticism as being, quote unquote, bourgeois propaganda. When Mao passed and his followers, they were called the Gang of Four. I still remember their names: Zhang Chongzhao, Yao Wenyuan, Jiang Jing, and Wang Kongwen. 50 years ago. I don't know Chinese, but I remember the names. And then things came out which were very unflattering to the Mao years. I don't think the picture is entirely correct that's been drawn, but there are facts I was egregiously wrong about. Not just wrong, egregiously wrong. I was physically devastated. I was bedridden for about 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
I understand that my professor in Paris, Bettelheim, went to the hospital for a month, shattered, destroyed. So when I started hearing it's just Zionist propaganda, my mind processed it as, oh, it's just bourgeois propaganda. But a lot of the bourgeois propaganda turned out to be right. And I wasn't going to make, the expression, once bitten, twice shy. Mm-hmm. I wasn't going to make that mistake again. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It wasn't being wrong that was the worst part. Of course, that bothered me a lot. It was the humiliation that I had dismissed all the criticism from a very haughty perch. It's just bourgeois propaganda. You don't know what you're talking about. I know. I'm so much smarter because I had read everything in the subject, which I had. I was wrong. It was humiliating. That I had put everybody down and I had been proven to be wrong. I was embarrassed, humiliated, mortified. So I wasn't going to make that mistake again. And so when the Peters book came out, it had, the alleged author, Joan Peters, put it 1,852 footnotes. I went through every one. I went to the...
I've seen your dog-eared copy back at home.
Exactly. The New York Public Library Research Library on 42nd Street has I don't use it now, a magnificent collection of documents. I went there every day, sat down, went 1, 2, 3, 4, checking everything. And so my career began. I exposed it. I was credited. I was still a graduate student. I had exposed it.
But what exactly was the lie?
There were 2 aspects. Falsification of sources. They didn't say what she said they said. And there was, in the book, the core chapters were a demographic study, which purported to prove what her thesis. Now that demographic study was certified, its authenticity was certified at the end of the book by Philip Hauser, who was the head of population studies at the University of Chicago. pretty formidable, redoubtable credentials. And you can imagine, I was very intimidated. He said what she wrote was true. And at the end of the book, there was an appendix with all of her calculations and all of her tables. So here were the chapters. I think it was chapters 14 to 16, but I could be wrong. I think it was chapters 14 to 16. And here were the tables. So she would make a statement. I turn to the back to the table, make a statement, table, check, 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 check. That's why the binding is completely broken, because I was checking. And then one night, which I still vividly recall, it's 1984, I suddenly realize one of the numbers is fake. One of the numbers is fake. And I got this frisson, this chill down my spine. And I looked at it, and I looked at it, and I looked at it. It's wrong. That number is wrong. I lived in a little Raskolnikov type studio, tiny little studio in Washington Heights. I don't wish it on anybody, even my worst enemy.
I think it's a cozy place.
Oh, no, not what I have now.
Oh, okay.
This is when, no. Cozy was not, believe me. It may have been cozy for the cockroaches and the mice, but it was not cozy for me. I got up, it was like 1 a.m., and I'm, just shaking, and I'm going, I did it. And of course, when you achieve that, you want to share it. So, who'd have called? 1 a.m. So, I'm a Jewish boy. I called my mother. Mom, what? I did it. And she said, I'm so happy for you. What did you do? There was no way I could prove, explain to her, I proved the demographic study was a hoax. And so, and that was, as I said, once bitten, twice shy. I believe in truth, and I didn't want to be humiliated. I couldn't accept just its bourgeois propaganda. And it was the same thing, we're talking about 50 years later. It was the same thing with Joan Donahue. Some people said, the American president, who said, we didn't say it was, and they said, who cares? No, I cared. And I sat down, tedious, repetitive, but I'm going to prove it. And I did the same thing with the current president of the International Court of Justice, Julia Sebutinde. That chapter, the chapter is 60 pages, single-spaced, just going through all of her dissents. And then there was a 35-page appendix by a very brilliant researcher, Gazan, by the way, who now resides in Doha, who demonstrates that she plagiarized 32.2% of her dissent from these hack Israel publications.